Hello, this is Steve from Beaute's Leatherworks. Today's project is this cool shoe. Now it's got a lot of lining damage on the inside, which you have to take care of. We're going to do JR full soles, combination heels, fiddle waist, maybe a little bit of a spade sole. We're cleaning the uppers. It's got a lot of crackings, and we're going to try to fill those in a little bit and see if we can do something for it. Now, as far as the shoemaker, this shoemaker is, I should say, was from Singapore, because I don't think they're around anymore. It is Ed et al. Ed et al. I guess that's how it's pronounced. As far as the build, it's a quality build. And I think once it gets done, I think it'll be solid shoe. Now the foot liner, the footbed is in pretty bad shape, so we're gonna have to replace that also. It's just dried out. And I think these are approximately maybe 15 years old, maybe a little bit more, because the last article I found was from Justin Fitzpatrick, the shoe snob, which dated back to 2012, that he was talking about the shoemaker that was from Singapore. So I don't think they're around anymore, but this is a solid build shoe. All right, let's get started. Alrighty, we're gonna make it a good day today. Your happiness depends on the quality of your thoughts. That's an old saying. I didn't make that up. I wish I would have made that up. It's so true. We all go through our life's up and downs. It's normal. It's very normal. Don't think that you know, you see all these celebrities or these Instagram influencers show you all the good stuff. That's a bunch of crap. They go through the same stuff that you and I go through, but they just don't show it. So that's not reality, okay? Reality is that you have your ups and downs. And when you do have your downs, you just pick yourself back up. It's okay to go through those normal thoughts and feelings, but try not to stay there, you know? Let it come and go. I know, it's easier said than done, but you gotta do it for your sake, you know? All right, we're gonna go through the breaking down of this wonderful shoe. I'm not gonna bore you with all the little details. I'm gonna take this apart and come back, because the details are gonna be on the inside more than the outside. Outside is just your regular soles and heels. It's all the stuff that we gotta worry about. All right, let's continue. This is basically the inside of it. Now we were just supposed to replace this piece right here, or repair that piece, I should say, not even replace it. Now we've got bigger issues than we thought. All right, let's continue. Simple repair now just became a little bit of a project. But you know what? It's all good. There's a will, there's a way. This was repaired before. Somebody had repaired, put a heel lining in the back there. You see that light gray? I think they just patched that up there, the little black patch, just to stop the cracking, or just so it doesn't, you know, rub their ankles. Oh, yeah, all that's got to go. Man, let me tell you, this was a struggle to take off. This sucker was on there in the back especially. Wow. I mean, I broke a sweat trying to remove this damn thing. Oh. It's a solid shoe. It's a very solid shoe. Let me show you guys a little detail here. This is basically just a small piece of leather that's folded over and brought onto the rough edge to make it look like it's a piping of some sort, right? And then the lining comes to the edge right here, just like that. Now there are different ways of making the edges. Sometimes manufacturers will hem this edge over like that. Man, my fingers are yellow from yesterday's dye job. Just noticed that. Anyway, what was I saying? Oh, some manufacturers will hem the edges over and then bring the lining. Some others will use different ways. This is definitely a more detailed way of making a shoe. Now I'm going to remove that and replace it because it's been kind of butchered up a lot after the few repairs. And again, this is an extensive repair now. Is it necessary for me to remove it? Not really, but can't leave it like that. This is just, now that's concerning me there. We weren't even supposed to touch that, but problem is that whenever you're doing this kind of job, you really need a last to reshape the lining, and which I don't have one this size, this shape. So I'm gonna have to figure something out as far as improvising in trying to make it work for the customer. And it'll be okay, just, you know, just a little bit of improvising. They don't call me MacGyver for nothing. MacGyver done it again. All right, let's continue. All right, so we made some progress. Now, I had to find a last, at least, to get the toe shape the same, okay? This is from 1961. This is a 60-year-old last, which basically I took the toe, all right, sanded it to give it that shape, somewhat resembling the original one. In the back piece, this is my indie boot last that I used a couple weeks ago to do my boots. Now, generally, it's very similar shape, okay, even though it's not 100% exact same, but the idea is to have these contours here around the heel, and the rest you can adjust. It's not a problem. That's why I cut it so big, and then I'll cut it to the exact shape that I need it. So the idea of it is just generally getting that shape together so it'll sit in nice and comfortably in the shoe. So we're going to do, now what we're going to do, we're going to basically clean all the thread that we cut the pieces, the thread that's been stitched, that we unstitched, and work on the uppers a little bit. We're going to basically clean the uppers with a little acetone to get rid of all that buildup. We're going to sand the surface a little bit of those cracks to see if we can try to fill them in and bring them back. All right, let's continue. say there's a little bit of polish build up here, huh? Now the cracks are visible. Where are you? See all those cracks? Got to take care of those. We don't want no crack. Crack is bad. Crack is whack. Who said that? Crack is whack. Oh man, the stuff that comes through my head, I don't even know where it goes. I don't even know where it comes from. Crack is whack. Oh my god, I'm gonna let you guys guess that one. I'll bet you all know. It's a pretty famous saying. Oh my goodness. That cracks me up sometimes. Well, that kind of crack is good. Cracking me up sometimes is good. Alright, gotta keep on digging into this until we get all the stuff off of it. We are doing shoe-topsy. You know, like autopsy. It's a shoe-topsy. It really is, man. This is a lot of detail here. It's a cool design, though. I like it. Very sleek. We'll give it some new life. Hopefully it'll last another 15 years. Well, I know the lining will last 15 years. Or more than that. We have, it's a little bit heavier material than what lining should be, but I think considering the way he wears it, I think it'll be okay. It's not going to affect the size of the shoe. However, he's got to break them in again because we're going to put new footbeds in. This is what the footbed looks like. I mean, it's pretty much dead. Why does this happen? I mean, the perspiration, I guess, would be the first thing that comes to mind. So once in a while, maybe if you can reach in there, put some, I mean, for the quality dress shoes you want to keep around for many years to come, you know, just stick your hand in there and give it some love, some lotion. Give some love to the sole, to the footbed sole. Cool, we are getting there. All right, let's continue. So what's next? I'm going to show you guys. This is called Stop Crash. I hate to say, I don't think this is available to the market. This is just for, you know, industry. This is made in Italy for, no, not for, from LM Professionals. Good bunch of guys. Now, this is like a leather filler, basically, okay? Now, I try not to use too much of this because you don't want really to be, you don't want it to be built up, you know, on the leather, especially where it's creasing. Just a little bit. Fill in the cracks. This one here, it's got to be, you need to sand that a lot to get that surface as smooth as possible. Now, I'm pretty sure there are leather fillers on Amazon or whatever. If you guys are doing this kind of jobs, look into that. But you can't really cake it on there, you know, especially if it's flexing. You don't want it to kind of peel away after a while. While the right shoe dries, we're going to work on the left one. This I had already prepped. It's very similar to the other side. We've got 400 grit sandpaper, lightly going over that. Not too much. At this stage, I'm going to start working on the creases a little bit too. We'll spray that down and see if we can bring that back a little bit. All right, let's continue. Basically, this is exactly how the shoemaker did it. Had a red string inside and between the leather there to give it a little bit of hump at the edge right here. So this is the piece. This is this piece here. I already installed it on this one. Okay, well, let's continue. All right, so we got our footbeds cut out. Okay, this is the gemming. This is basically going to stitch the uppers, the welt, together. Now, every time I post about similar jobs like this that I'm using this material, everybody wants to know where they can find it. Well, this is basically for shoemaking, okay? They're not really available everywhere. It's available in Europe probably more than it is here. There is a company in Canada called Warkov, WARKOV.com. I think it's like a shoe repair supply house, but they sell this by the yard if anybody's interested in making their own. Well, making their own shoes or whatever project you're working on. Now, there's other ways of doing a footbed like this called a holdfast. Holdfast is basically your footbed, your leather footbed like you got here. And a channel is opened up right here on the edges here. And actually the footbed gets stitched to the uppers and the welt, which is much more structurally sound than something like this, but that requires some skill and more time than what this would be considered as like a production Goodyear welted style, design, whatever you want to call it. So if it wasn't like that, I wouldn't change it. I mean, I would if the customer requested it, but that again, that requires a total different time and, you know, estimate. So we're going to do it the same way this was. Simply gluing it on there and getting it ready to be stitched to the uppers. Just a little fold right here at the toe area. All right. It's not quite hammer time yet. And they are ready. All right, let's continue. So now we get to put our blind eyelets in. Why do they call blind eyelets? Because it's only attached to the to the lining. You don't see it from the top. I don't know why they do that. I guess it's more elegant. I don't know. Put that fabric right there to reinforce it. The manufacturer had a thin piece of leather, which works fine too. Okay. But I chose fabric just so it doesn't stretch out of shape. All right, making sure everything is lined up. And everything appears to be pretty solid. All right, let's continue. Alrighty. We are making progress. Everything's done inside. This is a solid shoe now. All right. We'll get to cut the welt. Now, in most other times, you've seen me just take a roll and cut it. The problem is this sharp corners of toe here. Sometimes it's a little difficult to have that straight welt put it on. So I cut a piece of leather like that. Make my own welt. And besides, it's going to be a little wider, like a spade sole, you know, like curved on the shank area. So what we're going to do, we're going to secure this at the toe here first, and secure it in a couple of other spots. Stitch it together like that, so it doesn't move while I go ahead and start stitching all the way around. Let's continue. Usually when it's a 360-degree welt, which is all the way around, that's 2 arm lengths of stitch thread that I need. So this is plenty long enough. I'm going to use our jerk needle. It's got a little hook at the end. I always say, not a jerk with a needle. I know, you know. Look, if you can't try to make yourself laugh, then what good is life? You know? We don't laugh enough in this world. It's unfortunate. So all we do, this is a very simple process. You stick the needle through. Okay. You hook the thread, pull it through, which is here. At the beginning, we need to have one side out. And make sure both are even. Okay. Equal distance. Now, we'll go with the first stitch. You got to make sure that you're going in the same holes as what you took apart earlier, that welt. Now you pull it through, you loop it like that. You guys see the loop? And you run this through. And then you pull the loop through. So what it does is it does one of these numbers and make sure that joint, that middle is in the middle seam area, not too far right, not too far left. And then just tighten it. So I'm going to continue, go all the way around while you guys go do what you got to do. We'll come back. Now the last stitch, you go through the same routine, but you pull it out on the inside like that, and you put a couple of knots here. And one more for good measure. It's not going anywhere. All right, let's continue. This is a little bit of rubbing alcohol and water mixed together. Just soften the leather up a little bit. Maybe this is like hammer time, but not really. I know it looks pretty wide, but we'll trim that and shape it, make it look good. A little bit of glue here. Hey man, don't you get on there, boy. Get out of there. Ah, she is out. All right, we're getting there. Let's continue. Now, since this is a 270-degree welt, the welt doesn't go all the way around. Some manufacturers will do that, the rest of the welt, they'll glue it on there, make it look like it's seamless welt all the way around. So in this case, we're going to have to put a piece of leather back there. It's called a heel rand. So we're going to cut this in shape, cut the center out there, so we can install a shank and a leather piece. And that way, when you look at it, it's a continuous piece going all the way around. All right, let's continue. Before we put the heel rand on, we're going to have to secure that back leather piece to the footbed. Now, some of you guys ask me, what happens to the nails I'm nailing and how come it doesn't hurt the foot, right? So this is your perfect example of what happens to it, right? So here are the nails that are being nailed on. And if you look inside, see those little dimples? Those little dimples are the nails coming out and hitting the metal last. And it's cinching it together. So even after the repair is done, you're going to have a piece of leather covering that inside called heel lining or sock lining. Sock lining. To prevent those nails coming through. Now it does happen sometimes. I've seen it, you know, from manufacturers. There are nails that are left behind and quality control didn't catch it, and it does, you know, hurt your foot. So it's very rarely it does that, and we have a stubborn nail that does not want to go in, making me look bad. Boy, you don't know who you're messing with. Sit here all day trying to nail you in and never give up until I nail you. All right. Now it's time to put the heel rand. Now I've beveled the edge right there a little bit. Where are you? See that? And reverse bevel the other, so you can kind of go on top of each other like that. When it's glued and the sole comes on, it's seamless. All right, let's continue. So this is the shank. There's a shank there and a fiber board. So we're not going to reuse that. We're going to cut a piece of leather. Now this was the centerpiece of that welt that I cut off like that. Okay. So we salvage that. And we're going to make our own shank filler, whatever you want to call that. And then add our own metal shank to it. So it's just a matter of, you know, realizing what you can do with separate, you know, spare pieces, because there's a lot of things that you can use. I mean, you know, it looks like it's trash, but it's really not, you know. All right, let's continue. Man, I keep losing my pen.
Hey man, the table shakes when you hammer on the table.
Table shakes.
Camera shakes when you hammer on the table.
Now what are we doing here? We are nailing, well, riveting. We put a little bit of glue here, not that it's going to make a difference. Because once it's riveted on there, it's not moving. We're riveting the shank to the leather piece. Okay. Let's try that again. There she goes. So I got that backwards. It's gotta be like that. Okay. And then, once that's on there, we will hammer that down. If I can find my tool. hate when people touch my bench. All right, I'm back. As I was saying, and she is ready. Man, that is solid. Let's continue. All right, so we've got our second piece that's going to go on the waist right here, and that's going to give us that fiddle waist. Now, this machine here is called a skiver also. This one. We're going to skive the edges here to thin it out so we don't have to sit there and sand it for half an hour. See? So they gave us a general shape. Of course, we're going to thin that out and shape that a little bit more, but you get the idea. That saves a lot of time. All right, let's continue. All right, so we've semi got it, done. Now, I know this looks pretty wide, and it is, because we still have to trim the edges of the welt to give it shape before we put the sole on. Okay, now the actual soling job begins. After all that work that was done to it, that was just a preparation for the outer sole job, which most repairs are, that's what they're done, is just re-sole. But this was an extensive repair, reconstruction, resurrection, whatever you want to call it. All right, so this gives you an idea of what stage it's in. All right, let's continue. Hammer time. This is just water. Now you guys hear that background noise, that fan? Well, that's the central air conditioning basically running. All right, let me hammer this on and I'll tell you guys a story about that. Alright, it's getting there. Now it's hanging over the edge a little bit here, but don't forget, we still got to reshape the entire welt, so it's normal. Alrighty, man, it's getting there. All right, I'm gonna come back about the story while I'm doing the press. All right, let's continue. I said let's continue. All right, basically this is a sole press, okay? This was electrified at one point, but obviously it's no more. But if I want to, I can bring that back. It's not a problem. Now, whenever you're making shoes, the footbed is curved a little bit, shape of the last. Since we don't have a last, that we had to make a new footbed so we could use it to curve it on the last, we're going to kind of improvise with this. So this piece right here has got a little bit of a curve to it. okay? It goes inside the shoe, and then once it's pressed down, it gives it that little bit of a curved shape. Now I'm gonna put this plastic piece on here because I wanna wet the inside. I wanna wet the inside, and when it's wet, I don't want that metal rusting on that footbed. And it does happen. Man, this plastic piece bag has seen a lot. All right, we'll just grab the other one. This way the inside stays clean also. So once this is put in here, just kind of position it. Press it down. Just let it sit there. I usually leave it for a couple of hours. All right. And that'll give it that nice curve on the inside. Okay, about the air conditioning, the vent, the noise I was telling you guys about. When I was at my other location, I really didn't have heat, hot water, or air conditioning. I mean, the guy was a slumlord. It just slummest of the slumlords. So I had a AC window unit basically just to keep me cool in the summertime, and it was 500 square feet or so, that the old space we had. It would get pretty hot in there, you know, and especially in the winter times, space heaters kept me warm in long sleeve shirt, coat while I was working. So I swore that if I ever relocated, that I would have the AC on, heat on at 70 degrees throughout the whole year. That's not going to change, and nobody's going to change it. It's my thermostat. My wife comes in the shop and she's just freezing. It's 70 degrees inside, but she gets cold. So nobody touches a thermostat, okay? And I have to have it on 70 degrees or I'm not comfortable. At 72, 73, I start sweating and I don't like it. That's why you hear that noise in the background. I know it's not professional to have a vent running in the background while you're recording. I don't give a damn. I'm comfortable, okay? You guys got to deal with it. That's just how it is. So that's the story behind that. Now I've got air conditioning, I've got heat, I've got hot water, you know, at my disposal. So it's wonderful to be in a comfortable working atmosphere. So, all right, let's continue. So this is the trim blade that we use to trim the edges of the soles. There's 16 blades there. Sometimes the edges get dull. Then we have this machine here. This is a blade sharpener, basically. Just insert it in there. Turn it on. Push it in. Rotates the blade. What it's doing, it's sharpening. You guys see that inside part of each blade right there. It's hard to see it, but some of them are not sharpening at all, so I've got to adjust that. So that inside part needs to be shiny. See how that's shiny there at the tip? Across here has got to be nice and shiny. Okay. All right, we'll keep at it until it's sharp. Let's continue. All right, we're done with another project. I think they turned out pretty good. Now the cracks are still there in the uppers. I mean, there's only so much I could do with them. You don't want to sand them too much. Now, from what it started out with is to do basically replacement of that heel area there. As you saw, sometimes when you take it all apart, you have no choice but to kind of do it all. But this gets tricky at times. Remember, we don't have a last. You know, you're not going to be able to bring that shape back very easily. So now the customer's got to go through the break-in period because it's got new footbed, new lining, new everything just about. Now the size didn't change. I was made sure of that I would duplicate everything exactly how I took it apart. It's just going to be a little bit different feeling because everything is new. But that shouldn't matter as far as breaking them in. Other than that, I think they turned out pretty good. I mean, it's a solid shoe, you know. So it started out with a solid shoe. It just made it a little bit more solid. Now the lining, I chose a little bit heavier lining because from the looks of the customer's wear pattern, he just wore the hell out of that leather lining, you know. So this way, this should last a little bit longer. It's not too thick, but it's a little bit thicker than what we started with originally. So another project done. Thanks for watching. I appreciate it. You can comment, share, thumbs up, anything and everything that you got to do with YouTube to help generate more viewers would greatly appreciate it. This was an almost $800 job, by the way. I know you guys are asking about prices. Sometimes I forget to tell you guys, not because I care. People complain that I tell them. I don't really care about that. Who cares? You know, everybody has got their own business. Let them mind their own business. This is the prices that I charge. All right, so if you guys have any questions, please email me, bitos@yahoo.com, and I'll do my best to get back to you at a timely manner. All right, let's get started. No, we're done. We'll see you again on the next project. Take care.